3, 2.
Hey, welcome everybody. Jeff Colson with Junior Hockey Advisor. I know it's not our normal night. Thank you so much for coming on tonight. I appreciate it. We should have some fun. I have a lot of things I want to talk about, a lot of questions to answer for you that you've had this week. And welcome, and I'm glad you actually made it tonight. We're remodeling the house. Okay, we've got a lot of things going on in the house, and it was just chaos the other night with even trying to find a place to sit down for a little bit because there's a lot of dishevelment, you might want to say. So, but it's fun. It's part of the process. So, welcome aboard, everybody. I'm seeing a great crowd coming in, even though it's an off night. It's not our normal night. It's not our normal time. That's actually our normal time, just not our normal night. But we'll get into saying some hi to some people in a second, but there's a few areas we're going to talk about tonight. We are going to talk about the BCHL. We're going to talk about the AJHL. It's great that we see a comment coming in about the AJHL. I'll get to that in a second. And we're going to spend some time really diving into Division III hockey and really spending some time talking about the progression from juniors to Division III and talking about the Division III leagues and giving an idea what that's all about. It's an exciting topic. It's a lot of fun to discuss because, honestly, if there's one part of college hockey, the college club gets off overlooked too, but off overlooked by parents and players is Division III. And the reason why, we'll discuss that in a little bit, but let's get rolling. Let's get this show on the road. All right, who do we got in the crowd tonight? Oh boy, we got a lot here. So right off the bat, we've got my cousin Jeannie's on. That's great to see. We've got Dana from New Hampshire on. We've got Renee from Grand Blanc, which is the, you might want to say it's the Mediterranean of the Flint area. We've got Robert in from Salt, Michigan. It's not the Sault Ste. Marie. It's Salt. I don't know where Salt's at. Tell me where Salt's from, Robert. I'm not sure where that's at. And I'm from Michigan. That one's new on me. Probably somewhere where I really should know where it is. We've got Brendan on. We've got Lenny on from Boston. Lenny, put up a picture of one of those race cars. I see those all the time on your Facebook posts. I want to see and tell me what you did this weekend. Did you race? Are you done for the season? What's going on there? We've got Chris coming on with a question. I'll get to that, Chris. And then obviously we've got Jacob on from Winston-Salem. But I think, Jacob, didn't you say, I thought I saw a message come in saying you're in your hometown right now. And if that is, maybe post a picture on the comments here about where you're actually at. That'd be interesting to see. So a lot to talk about, but I want to start off with, and if I can do this the right way, I want to take you to a website because I saw this today and I started playing with it, and it's just another interactive piece. Let's see if I can pull this up for you. There we go. I know I'm right in the middle of there, and I'll try to slide myself over a little bit as much as I can. There we go. This is the BCHL, British Columbia Hockey League's website, and what they've done is made it they put an interactive tool on here, and I actually think this is pretty cool. What this is all of where the Division I colleges are in the United States, and if you play with it a little bit, you can actually see where their athletes are located at, how many kids they put into commitments in their programs, and it authenticates. And that's what I like about this. I just thought I'd throw this up, but I haven't played with it completely yet. There are a couple things that are clunky about it, but first of all, how cool. Now you can actually see all the different schools. You can pull up an area, you can look at it and get the demographics of what the BCHL does and play with it a little bit, play with the different schools. You can pull up, I'm going to really screw this up if I do this because I'll do it wrong because I haven't played with it enough. I'm not even going to try because I just got on this earlier today. But you can actually see how many players they've got committed currently. You can see how many players are at different schools. Pretty cool. Just a fun little toy as you learn and you're trying to figure out this whole thing we call junior hockey. And to be honest with you, I think it's a phenomenal little tool. And I would highly recommend going and playing with that a little bit if you get a chance. It's the BCHO website. It's just their interactive tool. And have fun with it. I mean, I was just on there just tooling around a little bit. And I thought, wow, that's a pretty nifty little device. So anyway, tonight I want to talk about. First of all, I want to throw our question up because we got a question right off the bat, and I thought it was a good time to throw that up because we started off with the BCHL. And I'll throw Chris's question up there. And Chris asked the question, Jeff, how does the Alberta Junior Hockey League stack up to the other junior leagues, and how is the AJHL for Division I commits? Now, okay, this is pre and post pandemic answer, or I should say pre-pandemic answer, because right now every stat that I cover, everything I've done historically, everything from recruiting as a GM in the junior ranks to being a college coach, all this goes out the window with this pandemic. It's really difficult to say what's going to happen this year. Historically, all the way up until last February, I can tell you exactly where they fit. It's a great league. It's very powerful. It does have its haves and have-nots. You're always going to see right now. I don't know if always is a strong word, but programs like Brooks are always on top. Okay, they're a very powerful program, and I've said this before. You can take the top 2 or 3 programs in the AJHL, and you can run them against the BCHL. You can run them against the USHL. You can run them against the North American Hockey League, and they will compete. They've got that much talent on those teams. Brooks is always chock full of talent. So I'm only using that name, but you could throw a few out. And they've got their have-nots, and right now one of the have-nots in their program happens to be a program like Olds, or you might even get into Calgary. Some of those programs are struggling right now. They've had strong past. They've had histories of being good, but right now they're on the bottom. And those programs are not competing for Division I talent. Where does the AJHL fit? The Alberta Junior Hockey League is usually the 4th best for producing players into the Division I ranks. Okay, they don't put as many into the Division III ranks as some of your other programs that are on the east side of the Canadian, the whole CJHL. If you look at all 10 leagues that are playing at the same level, quote unquote, clearly the BCHL is on top, and that's where all your Division I talent is. Next down is the AJHL. Then it's always usually a crapshoot on who's going to be next. It's usually the CCHL or the OJHL that are fighting for that. But some of the other leagues are getting very strong too, and you can never never outlook those leagues. But with that said, the AJHL is usually 2 out of the CJHL out of the 10 leagues. And for those, we've talked about this before. I've got videos out there on how the CJHL works. One of the best videos I have on this is the North American Hockey League secret weapon that breaks down how the CJHL fills or backfills into the North American Hockey League, because there's a lot of players that start off in the CJHL, both Americans and Canadians, and then move into the North American Hockey League. And it was, a quote unquote secret weapon up until pandemic time. And, of course, now the borders are a little bit different this year. So the question that you have is where they fit in. Now, they're a top 4. How many as far as numbers go? Once again, the weight is always on their top 3 or 4. If you really want to get a sense of how many, grab my video on the polls. Grab the video on the junior hockey polls are worthless is the name of the video. You can get it on YouTube, or I think you can find it on my our junior hockey advisor page, not the discussion group, but the page. And the reason I say that video is because I break down every league. I cover the BCHL, I cover the North American Hockey League, the AJHL, the NCDC, and I show you how many commitments are in that league, because it's proof positive of how commitments actually show you where the real talent is, not a fabricated poll that's trying to appease everybody that's unrelated to actually playing. In other words, your sponsors or your brethren in the leagues. The CJHL poll is worthless because they try to appease all 10 leagues. It doesn't make any sense. Then the other one is there's some other junior-related polls out there that are completely random, and they'll put Western Hockey League teams and they'll put SIJHL teams in the top 10 or the top 20, and there's absolutely no way that a team in the SIJHL, which has its purpose, the league, it's a reputable league, but there's no way they can compete with the BCHL, or there's no way they can compete with the North American Hockey League. So a league that has 0 Division I commits cannot compete against a league that puts out a couple hundred Division I commits. And that's really, what it boils down to. So that's a great question, and I appreciate that, Chris, for the question. And if you have any follow-up on that, or you want to know any more information on that, please let me know. Let's see if any comments came in on some of the things I was asking about. Okay, Robert, thank you. Sault Ste. Marie. And so when you put, salt, it's Sioux when you put Sault Ste. Marie, but it's salt if you just put salt there. Okay, so I didn't know you were going with the French Canadian pronunciation. Sorry about that. Jacob, I see you messaging me on my phone. I probably won't be able to get to that during the broadcast right now, but I'll get to it later. Mary Jo, thanks for checking in from Iowa. And I can see that Henning's coming in from Hagerstown, Maryland. And then we've got 10 coming in from Kansas City, Missouri. So got people from all over the place coming in now. Appreciate it as we get cranking up here. Let's talk some Division III hockey. I'm going to pull up the website. I really pushed hard for people to watch the video I have, or the I can't remember if I did that as a live stream or if I did that as a actual video, but it's out there. It's the yellow one. You'll see it. It says 3 must-watch videos, or 3 must. I can't even tell you the name of it. 3 websites that you must use if you're going to be doing this, going through the process of trying to move up and ascend into junior and into college hockey. So this is one of those websites. It is USCHO.com, and I'm going to throw that up right now if I can, and if I can get on the right page here. Okay, this is USCHO, and what I'm going to do on USCHO.com is I'm going to actually jump onto their D3 men's page. Now, right off the bat, I want to point out to you how this works. The USCHL website, and let me clean up this here, because if I get rid of this junior hockey advisor piece, you guys will be able to see this a little bit better. And I just got to remember how to do it. There we go. Okay, so as you're looking at this USCHO piece here, and I can make this a little bit bigger on my screen too for you. There we go. A little nicer, a little cleaner. All right. So as we look at this, this is broken down into D1 women, D3 men, D3 women. Okay, that's really all you need to know. The awards, the news, and teams. The news pops up all over the place, so you'll get whatever the highlighted news is everywhere. Let's go to the D3 men homepage and just start there. And right off the bat, any current news that's going on, new team, new coach right there. It's telling you about the awards, a little story about Fredonia and a player that passed. We've got the winter sports tournaments in the league announcements across the board. So you get all the current news. So it's always good to start here. Now, the reason I like this page and the reason I wanted to bring this up to you is because, currently I think there's 84 or 85 Division III teams. And it's a mass array of assorted choices for you, okay? Here's your leagues across the board, right? You've got your Commonwealth League, you've got your Massachusetts League, you've got your Minnesota League, you've got your Northern States Leagues, you've got your New England League. The NESCAC is considered the Ivy of the D3s, and I'll talk a little bit about them. You've got your Northeast here, you've got your SUNY schools, the UCHC, I forgot what this is. We'll get to it. I think that's the United League now. These leagues have changed names in the last few years, and it's hard to keep up because they made a switch a few years ago. This is your Wisconsin League, and you got a few independents. So I want to look at them real quick, and I want to just spend a little time with each one and just kind of give you a breakdown. So the CCC, this is your Commonwealth Coast Conference. Now, over here on the right above my head here, if you can see where I'm swinging the little cursor, there's your schools, your Becker, Curry, Nichols, Salve Regina, Suffolk, University of New England, Wentworth, Western New England, and Endicott. And you can see right off the bat, it's a New England-based league. You're talking about schools that are along the coast. You've got some beautiful, beautiful campuses. This is private schools. This is this is going to be a little more expensive than state schools. They're going to be a little bit more expensive than Midwest schools, but some of the campuses here, if I'm not mistaken, and it's been a while since I've been there, but Salve Regina is right on the Atlantic Ocean. Just a beautiful campus, and University of New England is just in the middle of the rolling mountains, and it's beautiful. All these campuses, for the most part, are just stunning, and it's really cool to see. But you've got some great schools there, smaller schools, and it's worth actually getting to know how these different conferences are broken down. So that's, once again, just here's your names, and that's where they fit as far as where they're from. Let's jump in and just quickly go through these just so you get a flavor. I don't want to go into a lot of detail. Okay, this is the state, this is the Massachusetts State Collegiate Athletic Conference. Okay, these are your state schools from the Mass area. So right off the bat, these are going to be economic for people that live in Mass. I don't know if there's reciprocating the states around like New Hampshire. I'm not sure if they get state credit. I believe this used to have a program where if you were adjoining states, you got some state credit towards these schools. However, this is great hockey, and this is great for a sound budget for a quality education. And this is very similar to Wisconsin and very similar to New York. But here's 2, 4, 6, 7 schools. 2, 4, 6, 7 schools. Good budget, good schools, all in the state of Massachusetts. Easy to access if you live there or you live in the surrounding area. But that's when you see the MASCAC, that's what it is. That's your state schools from there. So if we move on to the MIAC, this is your Minnesota Intercollegiate. So now we're talking about all the Minnesota schools. Now, most people don't realize that there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 schools. Now, you better be holy because half these schools are named after saints. So, and honestly, I don't know if there's an area of Division III hockey that I don't know much about. It's this league, so I'm not going to pretend that I know. I've known players that go to these schools, and I know some of the coaches from these schools, but I've spent very few moments on very few of these campuses, unlike the East and unlike most of the Midwest where I've been on these campuses numerous times. Minnesota Division III hockey is not one of my strong suits. However, these are all the schools in that Minnesota league right there. And it gives you an idea now. So when you see those names, when you see St. Thomas, St. Olaf, St. Mary's, St. John's, Hamlin, Gustavus, Concordia, Bethel, and Augsburg, now you know where they're at. They're in Minnesota, and they play in the Minnesota League. And I wished I knew a little bit about that league, but there's only so much I can cover and only so much that I know, and I'll be the first one to tell you that's not one of my strong suits. Let's jump on to the next one here. This is the Northern Collegiate Hockey Association, the NCHA. Now, this league is made up of schools. Michigan, although Michigan has a lot of D1 hockey and it's considered a hotbed around the Detroit metro area for youth. U14, 15, 16, 18, your Victories, your Bell Tires, your Honey Bakes, your Little Caesars, even your Fox Motors, your Myers. Who am I missing there? I know I'm missing somebody, and no disrespect if I missed one of the names there. But that's the hotbed of youth hockey. That was the first area that got sponsors involved with taking over a whole team, the Honey Bake philosophy, the Little Caesars philosophy, where they're branded by the name of the sponsor. And this is the hub of what we consider the path. So Michigan has a great hockey history. On the D1 side, you got Michigan, Michigan State, Ferris, you got Western Michigan, you've got Northern Michigan, you've got Michigan Tech, and you got Lake Superior State. Am I missing anybody there? I think I had everybody. So you got 7 programs there that are D1. On the D3 side, there's only 2. You've got Adrian, which is about a half hour, 40 minutes south of Ann Arbor. And then you've got way, way, way up top, you've got Finlandia, which is a very, it's actually Michigan Tech is pretty far up there. Michigan Tech's in the upper part, in the northern part of it's in a peninsula up in Lake Superior, on the upper, only one person on tonight knows what I'm talking about, and that's from Sault Ste. Marie. But if you go all the way up into the peninsula on the western side of the Upper Peninsula, I should say, there's a peninsula that the Keweenaw Peninsula goes up into Lake Superior. Michigan Tech sits there. Then above that, you go up to find Finlandia. It's way up there. So it's there. You better be serious about going there. You don't see too many people randomly stop by for visits to Finlandia. From my house, I believe, from Rochester, New York, I think it's like a 14, 15-hour drive to get there. It's pretty good distance. So anyway, the rest of these leagues, Lake Forest is in the Illinois area. The MSOE is the Milwaukee School of Engineering. And then you've got some schools that are in the Chicago area, Wisconsin area, and the two Michigan schools. So that's the way the NCHA breaks down. As we go through real quick, and I'm not gonna go into a lot of detail on these. I just want to kind of give you an idea. So New England Hockey Conference, name says itself. It's New England schools. And once again, if we look at this list, it's Babson, Castleton, Hobart. Now, Hobart is just outside of Rochester by about 20, 25 minutes. Johnson and Wales, New England College, Norwich, which is up in Vermont, Skidmore, Suffolk, UMass Boston, and Southern Maine. So you've got a flavor of schools across the board. Some of these are very high-quality schools. Johnson and Wales, Hobart, Norwich, all these are great schools. And you see a couple of these names, Norwich, Hobart, are always in the top 5, top 10. Recently, consistently up in the top 5, top 10 as far as schools and as far as your talent goes. So in the rankings, I should say. Let's get into the NESCAC. This is the New England Small College Athletic Conference. Once again, this is considered the Ivy of the small colleges. That's not a name that I came up with, but these are. It's a great hockey tradition conference. Amherst, Bowdoin, Colby, Connecticut College, Hamilton's in New York. Most of the rest of these are on the East Coast. Middlebury, Trinity, Tufts, Wesleyan, Williams. Middlebury went on a streak for a while. They dominated, 20 years ago. I think they won 4 or 5 in a row, 3, 4, 5 in a row, and then for a period of like 8 years, they were always there. But these are great schools, great campuses. You'll find that this conference, if you're a prep player on the East Coast, a lot of times you'll see prep players that don't move on to juniors, or I should say move on to 1 year of juniors and stay on the East Coast, knowing they're just going to go to a school in the NESCAC. You see Division III players that are really bound for the academics, or they're legacy players. Their family played there and they really want to be at the same school. Great hockey, and these are also gateway schools. A lot of these schools are gateway schools to Ivy master's programs, where you step out of these schools and you can move right into the Ivies very easily because of the credentials of these schools. So it's a really, really high academic league. Not that there's not other schools and other leagues that are not good academics. That's just one that stands out as a whole league. The Northeast 10 breaks down into Assumption, Franklin Pierce, Southern New Hampshire, St. Anselm, St. Michael's, Stonehill, and Post. A couple of these schools are fairly new across the board. But if you look at the NE10 and their breakdown, it's not a bad league. It's made up of New Hampshire schools, for the most part, Mass schools, Vermont and Connecticut. But once again, East Coast based, with a real flavor for the New Hampshire area in this conference. So let's jump back on. Hope I'm not boring anybody. I'm trying to get through this as quick as possible. Okay, the SUNYAC. The SUNYAC used to play in different. It's been reincarnated a few times over the years. Now it is just all the SUNY schools from the state of New York. These are the state schools: your Brockport, Buff State, Cortland, Fredonia, Geneseo, Morrisville, Oswego, Plattsburgh, and Potsdam. So you get a flavor of everything here. Buff State obviously is in Buffalo, and then on that western side, you've got Fredonia that's also over there. You've got in the Rochester area, or just outside of Rochester, you have Brockport and Geneseo. One's to the west of town, Brockport, and Geneseo is to the south. Geneseo sits in a really mountainous valley area One of the most beautiful campuses of any campus in the United States is the Brockport campus. Just phenomenal. Mooresville is in the middle of the state, along with Cortland. They're not that far apart. They're more in central part of the state. Oswego sits right on the water. Oswego probably has the prettiest Division III, maybe even one of the prettiest rinks in the United States for college hockey, regardless of Division I or Division III. Glass face that faces the Great Lakes. The campus is right on the water. It's a beautiful campus. Plattsburgh is above Lake Placid. It's way up there. Potsdam is in the middle of the Adirondacks, also on the other side of the Adirondacks. But you get a flavor of the Adirondacks and the SUNYs. You get a flavor of Buffalo, Rochester, and you get some great campuses and great campus views. But and if you look at these programs right now, Geneseo, the last few years has been a top 5 program. Oswego's right up there. They've had some great years in the past. Fredonia was very hot for a long time too. So great hockey across the board. State schools, state tuition for New York players. I believe right now these schools are going consistently in the 8 to 12 range, I want to say, and don't quote me on that, but I think that's where they're at. If you're in state, out of state, I would imagine that's another 10 grand on top of that. But and Geneseo is usually ranked up there with anybody academically, very high academic school. So hopefully that helps on the SUNYs, and let's keep cranking here so I can get you through this list. Okay, we go into the United now. So United Collegiate, okay, Elmira, Manhattanville, Newman, Utica, Nazareth, Stevenson, Lebanon Valley, Kings, Chatham, and Wilkes. Now, Kings, Chatham, Wilkes, Lebanon Valley, they're all Pennsylvania schools. Nazareth is in Rochester. In fact, Nazareth is about a driver, three wood from my backyard, going if I went straight across. Incredibly beautiful small campus. With a former Division I coach on their staff that's been there now for a few years. A real good quality program. Problem is they play in one of the town rinks. They don't have their own rink on campus. Utica, powerhouse program lately, and then Elmira once again has one of the most unique rinks. The rink's about 20 minutes off campus. It is their rink, but it's off campus, and it's a dome rink. It's actually got a dome on it, and it's a dome stadium. But this is some of these schools, your Elmiras used to be in the same league with some of the SUNY schools, and it's kind of broken off in the last few years. And they came up with the UCHC. So it's a real strong league. Like I said, you've got some schools in there. Elmira's been a powerhouse in the past. Utica is right now one of those powerhouse schools, and a lot of quality schools. And some of these schools, your Chathams, they're right down in Pittsburgh. This is where your few Pennsylvania D3 schools are in this conference here. So hopefully that helps a little bit on that. Let's get into WIAC and your independence real quick. WIAC is probably the easiest one. That's Wisconsin Intercollegiate. And if we look at our list here, it's Northland along with the University of Wisconsin system. It's the state schools, just like the SUNYs, and just like the Mass system. Here's where your state schools play. It's Eau Claire, River Falls, Stevens Point, Stout, and Superior. You're always going to see at least 1, 2, or 3 of the Wisconsin schools in the top 20. Sometimes you'll see 2 of them in the top 10. Stevens Point has been the hot hand lately. Superior's usually up there too. River Falls and Eau Claire pop in there too. But right now, the Stevens Point is the de facto team to beat out of that conference. Once again, pre-pandemic, I'm not sure how this all plays out after the pandemic. Everything can be completely changed as we juggle things around and we try to figure it out. And then independence. Just to get into the independents really quick, there's a few of them. Independents usually jump in as independents first, and then they find their home after a season or two, or as there's realignment with the independents. Sometimes the independents, if somebody jumps up to the Division I ranks, they backfill. Sometimes it happens that there's enough independents that kind of build their own subdivision of a conference that's already there. They build their own division inside of a conference. A lot of things that can happen there. But our independents right now are Canton, which is interesting because Canton is a SUNY school. I'm not sure why Canton is not part of this. Now, this used to be a 2-year when there was junior colleges, and you had that step before D3 and D1. There used to be a 2-year school. Now it's a 4-year school. Albertus Magnus, Bryn Athyn, and Anna Maria. All these schools will end up eventually into a conference. They'll probably play independent for a year or two. And once again, I don't know the story on Canton. I think that's a good thing for me to look into. I can make a few phone calls and find out if anybody's interested. DM me. I'll get an answer to that. But anyway, there you go. You've got the breakdown now of how D3 sits as far as the conference is. And maybe I gave you a little bit of insight into how these work and how they're actually broken down. And maybe that helps you a little bit. I'm just trying to get my screens back up so I can see your comments because it helps me understanding what you're thinking. And if you give me a second, I'll just drop this back over here so I can see your thoughts and comments. Okay, let's see what we've got here. Okay, I am playing 16U AAA for the New Jersey Avs, trying to play juniors next season. I'm also shooting to play D1. What league would you recommend? The best league you can get into. Once again, watch the video I do on the junior polls. You can go to you can either go to the Junior Hockey Advisor page itself, and you can go through the videos there, and it's tabbed there, or you can go onto the YouTube page, Junior Hockey Advisor YouTube page, and grab the Junior Hockey Polls Are Worthless, and just look at the leagues and see where all the talent is. You want to try to get into the league that's got the most talent on the junior side. It's absolutely imperative. Everybody, tries to say, hey, look, you can develop slowly, you can develop slowly, you can develop slowly. Develop slowly in a good league, okay? Develop slowly in the best league you can play in. Not everybody is going to be in the USHL, okay? But the good news is you don't have to be to play college hockey. You can be, just like we talked about earlier, you can be in the AJHL, you can be in the BCHL, the North American Hockey League, the NCDC, a lot of places you can play. And there's 3 or 4 other choices outside in the CJHL that produce players that play Division I hockey. So you don't have to be in the USHL to be a great hockey player and to play Division I hockey or Division III. Now realize, and I was wrong on this early on, and I was the first one to admit I was wrong. Maybe I wasn't the first one to admit it. Maybe I had some family help on pushing this a little bit. But I made the comment that, the NCAA rule is not going to affect hockey in the long run. Not that many players are going to want to stick around for another year. If you're done with your 4 years, that might not be the case. I'm starting to see a different flavor of kids that want to stick around for one more year. And this is even Division III players that are seniors that missed their senior year that want to come back for another year. It's tough in some schools because they don't have a master's program to go into. You can't go into grad school because they're only a 4-year school. However, some of these schools are modifying and let them do a double major. They can come back for another year and do a double major and finish off and have 2 degrees instead of 1. So you're looking at a situation where great hockey players, I'm estimating right now that up to 70% of the players that are playing right now that would normally move into the Division I ranks are not going to be playing Division I hockey. They're going to be playing Division III hockey. And I have a feeling it's going to be a race to the best spots in Division III hockey because of all this back pressure from players sticking around. I could be wrong, but I'm trying to put some math together on this. It's very, very difficult because it's literally changing every day. So the question of where you should be playing the best league as possible. If you're in the New Jersey area, you've got great choices with the North American Hockey League. If you can get in that league, you've got the NCDC, which is a great league. And then you can move down from there. Play at the highest level you can possibly play. That's my advice across the board. So let's see what we got here. Bradley says, my daughter goes to Lebanon Valley College. Love it. Hockey program is strongly supported by Doug Yingst, retired GM of the Hershey Bears. That's awesome, Bradley. Thanks for the comment. Across the board, there's some great programs out there, and there's some just beautiful campuses. The biggest thing, let's talk about the difference in D3. Now we went through these conferences. Let's talk about the flavor and what you're you're seeing what you don't see at D3. First of all, the biggest thing you're going to see on a D3 campus versus D1 is you're going to see the flexibility to be involved in the campus in many different ways. Division I is a job. You're getting paid, and even if you're not getting paid by scholarship, you're allowed to play Division I hockey. You're getting to the rink sometimes at 2 o'clock, and you're there till 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. Now, is that the case with some D3 programs? There is. But the difference is D3 programs, you still have time away from the rink. You still have time to get involved in other flavors and other activities. Now, the biggest thing that is the misnomer is that you cannot get any aid at the Division III level. First of all, let's talk about one other thing. One other thing about this is that Division II doesn't exist like it does in other sports. Now, Division II is there, but it really is masked because those schools are playing in the Division I ranks, and they fall into the Division I ranks as far as their talent. We'll do a whole nother show on that little niche of a few schools that fall into Division II, but it's either Division I or Division III as far as any colleges. Even the Division II schools are competing with Division I. They're treated as Division I schools, so leave it at that. So the other side about this with the money side, and I see a lot of questions or a lot of things coming in from the different sources of information, or I should say the different sources of where the video is being broadcast right now. I'll jump on and get something. I'll get to you guys in a little bit here. You can get financial aid for Division III, and sometimes you can get really good packages. Some of these schools are private, and they've got endowments that they can use for leadership grants, leadership scholarships, academic scholarships. And as long as those scholarships are available to all students on the campus, you as an athlete are eligible for those too. So some of these schools are able to actually, a $50,000 school, they're able to knock off $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 for a student athlete because there's money there available for other people, maybe not just athletes. In fact, some Division III schools got in trouble a few years ago. This is probably going back about 10 years now, because what they used to do is they used to stack up on these areas where the money was in the school. So there'd be an endowment for the German club, let's say, or for the German studies program. And I'm picking on one particular situation I remember from a few years ago. So this German studies program had a huge endowment. There was a lot of money there for scholarships. So it happened to be that there was 15 kids in the German studies program on a hockey team. And they all just happened to want to study German. It's because there was money there, and there was a lot of money there, and they were able to put all these kids into scholarships through the German studies program. The NCAA whacked them on the wrist on that one, a little more than just whacked them on the wrist. But you can get money as long as it's available to all students at the school. So, for example, I know of kids right now that are getting private offers to East Coast schools that are $50,000, $60,000 schools, and the first thing that they get when they get accepted in a school is a leadership scholarship, and it takes off $28,000 off the tuition every year. So that's $100,000 off. That's not bad. That's not a bad way to start off before you're getting into any other grant and aid. You still can get grants. You can get financial aid. You can go through the normal federal assistance program for financial aid. And to be honest with you, maybe that's the way to go right now because in utilizing the loans, because if the federal program or the federal government is going to get into the business of absolving loans, and I don't want to get political here, I'm just saying this is a business side of it, maybe take advantage of that if you can, if they're going to absolve that in the future. So you can get money there. So let's talk about some of the other differences. You can see too that there's a lot of regional play. Minnesota has a lot of hockey. New York has a lot of hockey. Even Wisconsin has a lot of hockey. Pennsylvania has some pockets of hockey. New Hampshire, Connecticut. You get into Massachusetts, there's just a ton of hockey there. Just loads and loads and loads of hockey there. But these areas allow a lot of players to stay closer to home or stay closer to relatives and play in front of their families. It's one thing about D3 hockey is, if you're a hockey player, you tend to come from those areas. You tend to come from Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan. You tend to come from Pennsylvania, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts. And that's why they're loaded up so much. And you can see the numbers. 84 schools, all in that strip from Minnesota, and you can kind of draw a path, right around Lake Michigan and all the way through the Great Lake areas, all the way to the East Coast, right to Massachusetts. There's that band that goes through there, and that's where all your D3 hockey's played. You don't see any schools in the South. You don't see any schools in the West like you do with the D1 schools. You don't have any of the Colorados. You don't have any schools in Alaska. They're all in that band. So it's nice and convenient for those that live in those areas. What are the other differences? You can talk about size differences. You can talk about speed differences. But honestly, it's not as consistent across the board that way. But there is a huge difference between your top schools and your bottom schools. Just like there is at the D1 level, there are actual leagues, like the Big Ten, that have a ton of NHL prospects. They have draft picks on every single team. But then you have the Atlantic in the Division I level that you won't see any NHL draft picks, or it's rare that you'll see an NHL draft pick that comes out of the Atlantic. There are a couple here and there, but nowhere near the huge numbers. You also know that your Minnesotas, your Michigans, your Boston College, your BUs, those programs, your Providence lately, North Dakota, those programs are always going to have consistent, players that play 1, 2, or 3 years, and then they're moving on to the NHL. Those are the teams that are always getting the NCDC kids, or excuse me, the National Development kids, not the NCDC kids, the National Development Program kids out of Plymouth, Michigan. Those are always going to BC, BU, Michigan, and a couple other schools, but they're consistent. That's the top of the D1 ranks. The same thing happens at the D3 ranks. You've got your creme de la creme schools. Easy to do. Go to that USCHO. You can pull up and see exactly what schools are always on top. Lately it's Norwich, Wisconsin, Stevens Point, Adrian, Geneseo. Those programs, quality coaching, consistent play, and look at the rosters. Almost every one of those rosters has 2, 3, 4 kids that were Division I kids that moved back from the Division I ranks into the Division III ranks. And the rest of the roster are all bubble players that were on the teeter-totter. Either they had the choice to go play Division I or Division III, or they just missed out on an opportunity for Division I, and they played Division III. Division III recruits differently than Division I. Division III rarely takes a kid that's under is max out years for juniors. Why should they take anybody that hasn't maxed out juniors? They want the older players. They want the consistent players. Easy to figure that out. All you have to do is go to Elite Prospects. You can pull up the Division III hockey, and you can actually pull them up by age, and you can see what an incoming freshman looks like, or you can go roster to roster. But it's very rare that you see teams that don't have max out age kids. So you're gonna see older players coming in across the board. Whereas those Big Ten schools with the super elite kids, you'll have that 18-year-old that's coming after 1 year of juniors or coming right out of the National Development Program right into college hockey at 18 or 19. You're rarely seeing that at the Division III ranks. It's an older league across the board. So that's a big difference right off the bat. But your top is going to have extremely talented players that are either former D1 players or they were borderline D1 players right off the bat. Those top teams, those 5 or 10 top teams, those kids are all BCHL kids, kids coming out of the North American Hockey League, some USHL players, and then you'll see a little bit of mix of other ones. Now your bottom teams, and once again, this is by the rankings, and there's several different rankings on the USHL site. There's the pairwise, there's the Kratch rankings. All these different rankings are built on the same kind of algorithms that are used by the hockey one. It's slipping my mind now. The hockey rankings, My Hockey Rankings. My Hockey Rankings algorithm is very similar to theirs. You can read how they rank them, but it's a fairly consistent and it works ranking process. But they'll rank all the way down, and you can see who's on the top and bottom. Now, those bottom schools, they're pulling from the USPHL. They're pulling from the NA3HL. They're pulling from the NCDC. They're pulling from the East for the most part, because a lot of these schools on the East don't have the same budgets. Some of those schools that are in the Mass area, the Boston area, they don't have the budget to run out and check out players in playing in the Southwest Division of the North American Hockey League. They don't have money to go see the BCHL. They're gonna have a recruiting radius that's a little bit tighter, and they're sticking to their budget as far as where they recruit kids from. So if you're looking to play in the Boston area or the Mass area, it's probably a good idea to play your junior hockey there if you've already figured out that most likely I'm going to be a D3 player. You probably don't want to be playing out in the AJHL. You probably don't want to be playing in Manitoba if that's the league you're looking to play, or those the schools or the leagues you want to end up playing at. So hopefully that helps a little bit on that. Other big differences, most of these schools have their own rinks on the campus. Now, once again, you get a little bit lower on the priority list with some of these schools where it's not their top sport. You go to a Norwich, it's the top sport. You go to Geneseo, it's the top sport. You go to Adrian, it's the top sport, maybe close with their basketball program. You go to Stevens Point, it's their top sport. Geneseo, I think I said that already, it's the top sport. But your top programs, it's usually their top sport. You move down the list a little bit, you get washed in with a lot of other sports, and the programs don't stick out as much as far as the hockey. Some of these programs, if you're around a major metro area, if you're around the Boston area, if you're around the Chicago area, you might only be playing in front of a couple hundred people. You play for the Geneseos, the Norwiches, the Stevens Points, the Adrians, you're most likely to a packed house every time you have a home game. So there is a difference in the crowds. Some of these schools literally draw less than the junior crowds do. And if you played USHL or you played in the non-East-based programs, anything from Johnstown, Pennsylvania to the West, junior hockey at the NAL level or the USHL level has pretty good crowds. There's pre-pandemic pretty good crowds. Pre-pandemic, let's put that in context there. But some of these other schools, you're not going to have that. But most have their own rinks. Most have their own locker rooms, dedicated locker rooms. In fact, I would say that's the prerequisite for most of these programs. Most have at least a dedicated coach. Most at the upper half of Division III hockey have 2 full-time coaches, and then they'll have a volunteer assistant coach or 2 that also help out the program too. So you're talking about a commitment level from some of these programs, 20 to 30 top programs. You're not going to really be able to tell the difference much on how they're managed from Division I hockey. In fact, there's some Division I programs that don't get the same love and attention that some of these D3 programs have. It's academically, you could be making a choice at a Division III level that's a lot stronger of an academic choice than some of the Division I schools. Not every Division I school is a great academic fit, nor are they considered great academic schools. Most are, but there's quite a few that aren't what you would consider to be great academic schools. So you get a different flavor there, and most of these schools, except for the state schools, are liberal arts schools. They're private schools. Then they have a lot of campus activities that are fun to be involved in and interact with. So you can get involved with the arts. You can get involved with clubs to much more of a degree than you can at the Division I level. And you'll see student athletes that have part-time jobs even during the year, during the season, where they work a couple hours as part of their aid package. That can happen at the Division III ranks. It won't happen at the higher levels, the Division I levels. So hopefully I give you a little bit of taste of this. I know I went on for a while, but let's see what we've got out there. We got any questions out there? Well, hey, I want to say hi to Greg. Greg's on from Amherstburg, Ontario, which is just a little south of Windsor, for those that don't know about that. What about Arizona? So I'm not sure what about Arizona. I know where it's at. It's a little sandy. It's warm. It's a great place to fly an airplane if you're a pilot. As far as junior hockey goes, if that's the question about Arizona, or if it's about Division III, there is no Division III hockey in Arizona that I'm aware of right now. As far as junior hockey, there are some opportunities out there. I should say there's Southwest opportunities out there in a lot of the states in that area. So, boy, oh boy, you have to be a little more specific about what you're asking for there, Brandy. I'm not really sure how I can help you with that one. That was kind of a little bit lost there. I want to say hi to Mary. Mary's in Long Island. Mary Jo says NCAA has made adjustments, but what has USA Hockey done for the players? That's the $1 million question. And I did see this week we had some actual board members from USA Hockey starting to jump into our discussion groups and join our page, the Junior Hockey Advisor page. It's about time we start seeing, we've got board members and general managers and coaches from all the major leagues. We've got Division I, Division III coaches and ACHA coaches on here. It's nice to see some of the USA Hockey board members starting to get involved in watching this and interacting with what's going on. And I'll do it for you, Mary Jo. I'll call them out and say, what are you doing for those players? Because the NCAA has made an adjustment for the pandemic. By making that adjustment, the 2000s and 2001s could literally be bypassed in this process if they're Division I talent, okay, because of the backload of all the players at the NCAA Division I level and Division III getting one extra year. So even the schools that got in 20 games this year at the Division I or Division III level, all their players are being given an extra year. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to get financial aid. Let's say I'm a 4-year scholarship player at a major Big Ten school, and I want to stick around for another year. That doesn't mean I'm going to get money. It means I have an extra year of eligibility. There's a good chance that I won't have money because that money's been earmarked for a younger player, and so then here's where the quandary is. Coach wants his senior to come back for a super senior year. Does he pull the money from the younger player to give it to that super senior, or does he expect that super senior to be on his own and either get other grant and aid packages outside of scholarships, or do they have to split the money? So that's a great question that is there. But because we got this new category, the super senior, super sophomore, super junior coming back for that extra year, now that 2000 or that 2001 that was ready to make the jump, we've seen a lot of an extraordinary amount of decommits from schools that don't normally decommit players already happening, and it's been across the board. Once again, we're seeing some extremely odd situations. A lot of Division I talent being just flat out cut from the USHL. Never happened in the past at this level, unless there was a reason for it. But you're seeing those guys coming into the North American Hockey League. You're seeing players get traded or cut at the North American Hockey League with commitments, or being decommitted and cut, where decisions are being made. And it really has nothing to do with the player. The player was fine up until this pandemic situation, but that compressed level of competition at the USHL and the North American Hockey League right now, and it's pushed down to other leagues too. But that North American Hockey League is so compressed with talent right now. I just would like to see USA Hockey step up and make the call and say, you know what, junior hockey at the USHL level, Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, we're going to let those players have an extra year at their discretion. If a kid wants to stick around for one more year, we're going to let them. What do they have to lose? What possibly could they lose by making that decision? And just, full disclosure, I do have a 2000 that would fall into that category that's playing in those leagues. And, it's yet to be said how it all plays out for him as this goes through. As some of you already know, I don't get into a lot of details about him. He does his own thing, I do my thing, and we don't really share our two worlds when it comes to this show and what I'm doing right now. I do this separate of him. I don't ever want to bring him in and embarrass him in this situation. But it falls into the play there too. So that's a great, Mary Jo, thanks for bringing that up. Tom says, if they let graduating seniors come back for a season because of COVID, do you think the leagues would allow the rosters to expand a little? Well, the question is, first of all, at the junior level, it's already happened. 27 is the new norm. It used to be 23 and 25 at the Tier 1 and Tier 3 levels. So it's already been expanded at the junior levels. At the college level, you only get 18 scholarships across the board. Right now, teams, even it used to be the Atlantic, because they were the new kids on the block. They were all D3 schools that had moved up into the Division I ranks when the Atlantic Division I league started. You saw them always carrying more because they didn't have scholarships at first. Now they've evolved into a full scholarship league, but that literally took them 10 years to move into a full complement of scholarships. But they were always known for carrying 28 to 30 players. They were the league that always had that large roster of players. And you always looked at the leagues like the Big Ten, which used to be the CCHA, then morphed into the Big Ten. You always looked at their rosters, and they always used to carry 23, 24 players total. And you always go, well, that's because they're scholarship players. They try to keep the ship tight. What's changed, though, is because players jump and because players can transfer and players leave universities to go to another university and players leave for the NHL or the AHL. Now you're even seeing the Big Ten carrying 27, 28, 29 players on their rosters. So it's subjective to say you're going to see more. Each team's different. It's a random decision on how many they carry. There's no mandated number that you can only carry this. Of course, in hockey, you can only dress 21. That's what they dress now. You can dress that extra forward. You're three pairings of D and an extra D, or 4 lines and an extra forward, and then your 2 goalies. So that's all you get to dress. How many you actually carry? It's kind of like football. At the University of Michigan, where I played, the football team, I think they traveled 66, but there was 120 players. That's just the way it was. So I don't think there's a way to really judge if that's going to change much. Of course, I'd like to see them carry more, but that doesn't really mean it's going to change anything for the kid that would have been a scholarship player pre-pandemic and the situation. So, Tom, thanks for the question. So let's see if there's anything else that popped up since then. Okay, here we go. Jared says, any experience in high school hockey? I have a son that's maxing out challenges in Australian hockey and looking to position into a market to develop further. I really don't know anything about Australian high school hockey. Okay, and I'm joking a little bit there. Jared reached out to me with a DM. I can tell you in general terms, high school hockey is usually not the path for Division I athletes, and it's rarely the path for even Division III athletes in the hockey world. Now, I'm going to say that with a caveat. Minnesota high school hockey stands on its own. It's its own beast. There's 3 pillars. Minnesota high school. We talked a little bit earlier about the Detroit market, which is any program that has strong U16, U18 programs. And those are the HPHL, the Tier 1 Elite, the Beast, the AYHL. Those leagues are all over the place, but it's the Detroit model. It's the Michigan model teams that really strong 16, really strong 18 programs that play a strong regional or even national schedule. Then the other part of that is your preps and your prep programs. Preps kick out a ton of talent right now. If you look at the National Development Program, the majority of players that play funnel through preps. Now, it's by design because those kids at 15 or 14 and 15, when they're getting earmarked to head towards a national program, they're filtered into 1 year of a good, strong prep program, almost like a development to get them ready for that independent living and to be prepared to have success at the National Development Program. So as far as high school goes, there's a few high schools in the Boston area that are strong. You've got a few high schools in the Michigan market, in the Metro Detroit area that are strong, that can actually kick kids into the USHL. However, 1 or 2 in the, maybe 3 in the Wisconsin market. But for the most part, if you're playing high school hockey, it's a recreational or ACHA development path where you're going on to college club hockey, which once again, we're going to do a whole show on college club hockey too, and the merits of that. But if you're looking to play Division III, you're looking to play Division I, you're playing, that extremely elite competitive hockey, most likely high school is not the direction you're heading unless you're in one of those markets that I talked about. So hopefully that help you out a little bit on that. So Greg says, Junior C, we could roster 25 players this year, 23 all your prior years. Absolutely right, Greg. Thanks for putting that on there. The roster size have been expanded out a little bit this year, and it is what it is on that. So being that you're saying Junior C, I'm assuming, Greg, and maybe I do know which Greg that is, but I'm assuming you're coming out of the Canadian markets there. So let's see what Kyle has to say. Son is a goalie for a 16U AAA team this year, but likely needs to play a year or 2 of U18 AAA before juniors. Is there an advantage of playing Tier 1 Elite HPLHL or specific leagues for exposure. Absolutely, there is an advantage. We talk about that all the time. In fact,